Top story, which is the government's demonetization drive and its impact. We're now joined by Natasha Sarin from Harvard University. Natasha, appreciate you joining us on CNBC TV 18. You co-authored a post that was put out by former U.S. Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. Now, in that, you have expressed reservations and concerns about the government's decision to demonetize the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. But, Larry Summers has previously talked about the abolition of the $100 bill, the $500 euro, as well as the 1,000 Swiss franc note as well. Why these particular concerns about demonetization when it comes to India?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm thrilled to be here. I think the reality that Dr. Summers talks about and that we talk about in this post is that every good idea kind of taken to the extreme can be really detrimental. And I think that, and I worry that that's what we're seeing in India today for this precise reason. What the ECB has done with the 500 euro note, what's being contemplated in the US with respect to the $100 bill, and what we've talked about with respect to the 1,000 Swiss franc note is about ending the printing of these high denomination notes for fear that they're used in like corruption and sort of as black money and wanting to end those sort of high denomination bills. What's happened in India and what Prime Minister Modi has done is sort of overnight, he's turned legal tender into sort of worthless currency. And as such, while we can argue that there are some benefits to that, and I'm sure Prime Minister Modi has argued that there are real benefits to that in terms of reining in corruption, there's also sort of what we're seeing on the ground, which is the detriments to kind of ordinary Indian citizens who can't live their day-to-day lives in the way that they used to because of this action that came around incredibly unexpectedly. So I think there's a difference between sort of the situations that Professor Summers has advocated for in the past and what we're seeing in India today. It's also true that when we talk about kind of the $100 bill, in day-to-day life, even the top 1% of the U.S. income distribution doesn't deal with the $100 bill. That's just not what you transact in. Whereas in India, the 500 rupee, the 1,000 rupee note, they're used by my grandparents every day. So I think it is sort of a very different case that we're dealing with here. And I think as a result, we're kind of concerned by what Prime Minister Modi has decided to do.
So, Natasha, given the case that you just made, what are your concerns in terms of contraction of growth? Because, 45% of India is in the informal sector, and the worry is that this move is going to hit the informal sector. Of course, the benefits of moving the informal sector to the formal economy will perhaps play out in the long term. But in the short term, in the near term, what kind of growth contraction do you believe we could see?
Absolutely. So I think it's kind of too early to tell what the long-term impacts are going to be. And I'm sure certainly Prime Minister Modi has made a bet that in the long term, sort of moving the informal economy into the formal sector is going to be the best trajectory for India. In the short term, I think the reality is that this is going to be incredibly detrimental, like 30% of GDP wiped out in 1 week or something like that. So I think that in the short term, what this has done to sort of the Indian growth trajectory, which was on quite a strong trajectory, is kind of cataclysmic. What's going to happen in the long term, it's still kind of very early and too soon to be able to tell, but kind of the opinion that we offer in this post is our belief, and we hope to be wrong, but our belief is that sort of the costs of an activity like this one have kind of outweighed the benefits that we believe the Modi administration miscalculated in this case, perhaps.
Let me get your comment on the economic argument that the government has put forward as to why they've decided to go ahead with this decision. One, of course, is this business of reducing cash to GDP, which currently is at about 12%. They believe it's too high. It leads to the black economy and the shadow economy, and hence they want to bring that down. How does that, A, compare to other comparable economies? Let me start by getting your comments on that.
It's true that, in India, the cash, all these arguments that I'm sure you've been talking about over the course of the past week are totally valid, which is that the cash to GDP ratio in India is much higher than it is in sort of comparable countries. Daily transactions broadly only occur in cash. The proportion of Indians that have a bank account, while has gone up tremendously over the course of the last year or two, is still much lower than it is for example, in the United States. So all of these things and all of these arguments are totally valid. In terms of your black money comment, I mean, another thing to think about is that sort of the highest players, and we're trying to study this now at Harvard, so I don't know the exact statistics and I don't know the exact answer here, but my guess is that the highest players in sort of corruption and who deal with black money most, I'm not sure those are the same people who are sort of hoarding hordes of cash in their apartments or their homes. I think that it's likely that they hold their assets in a different store of value, a foreign exchange, gold, Bitcoin, some other, so a store of value that's not affected in the same way that this currency demonetization has impacted. So I think that in reality, who you're actually hitting, besides ordinary Indian citizens, which is a problem, is sort of petty criminals, petty corruption, rather than the real high players who are the most concerning, I think, from a corruption perspective. So I'm not sure, A, whether these are the right people to target, but B, whether in the long term, the black money is just going to find itself a different venue or a different outlet to be effective in. So I'm not sure whether, if the goal was to sort of end corruption, which is a very noble goal and one that certainly India needs to pursue very strongly, I'm not sure that what you've done here is anything other than shift corruption into a different space.
Okay, my final question to you, Natasha, very quickly. Do you believe that, and the talk within government circles is that perhaps we could now see fiscal stimulus and perhaps we could see monetary policy action as well, and we will see a significant cut in interest rates. Do you believe that that could be, or that should be, the route forward to try and negate the impact of demonetization?
No, certainly I think that fiscal stimulus, both in India and actually we're talking about it a lot right now in the United States, is incredibly important to help promote growth. So I think fiscal stimulus done well can certainly help negate some of what has been done by Prime Minister Modi and sort of this unilateral action to demonetize these currencies. And we hope to see sort of good fiscal stimulus plans come out of this. I don't know if that is a reality, but it's certainly something that we can aspire to and hope to see in the future.